Reign of Guilds is a hardcore sandbox PvP MMO from the developers Atland Games. It's just released into early access with mostly positive reviews on Steam, and it's averaging between 300 and 500 people in its first week. Reign of Guilds has a huge open world, it has multiple classes called Vocations, a ton of magic spells, and a very punishing system of losing items and experience on death. I played a ton of this over the last few days, and I wanted to give you a first impressions review, because there's a lot of good stuff here, but a lot of bad things, or at least things that need improvement. So hopefully this gives you a bit more information on the game, and helps you decide if it's worth your time and whether it's your kind of game. So let's get straight into it. First up, I want to talk about the new player experience and kind of the progression of your first couple of days. So first things first, you create a character, and the options are bad. There's about 3 hairstyles: bold, balding, or long hair. There's no classes on the startup, no races, or anything really that impacts your playstyle, other than, as far as I'm aware, the size. So going big gives you more weapon reach and a bigger hitbox, so you're easier to hit with magic and archery. And then smaller gives you a smaller hitbox, but less reach. Once you make your character, you do a small tutorial where you're taught how to fight on target dummies, and then you leave the training area to the starter island. And yeah, you're on your own. That's it. So there's no formal guide or main quest. You're given a couple of fetch quests, and then there's an overall final quest on how to leave the noob island. You got to reach level 15 physical and level 15 magical, and that's it. How you get there is you're on your own. And I'll be honest, 90% of your time on this beginner island is spent leveling those abilities. And the leveling system is quite unique. So you don't have an overall character level, you have 2. So you have a magical level and a physical level. Improving your physical skills increases your overall physical level. So increasing your strength by hitting stuff with a sword, increasing your endurance, or increasing your, I think, accuracy by shooting stuff with a crossbow. All those things level your physical. And then by leveling up the different magics, so the different elemental magics, you level your overall magic level. So your gameplay loop for the first day, probably, maybe even the second day, will be to go to the town, pick up all of the fetch quests. So the guard wants you to go and slay stickmen or boars, and then the hunter wants you to bring in pelts, and the herbalist wants you to bring them herbs, things like that. So you go out with your big quest list, you go hunt everything, you fill your inventory, and you just throw fireballs, hit things over the head, and then you go back to town, you've gained a few levels, and you hand all your stuff in for gold. And you restock on regents, and you go out and do it again. And this is kind of the weak point of the game, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the weak part of the game is at the very start, because it's slow and it's kind of repetitive. But then once you get to like level 8, level 9, you can start going into the PvP zones. Once you've got a bit of money, you've got a bit of gear, you've got a few good spells, you can go into the PvP zones. You can go into the Spider Cave, you can go to Skeleton Castle, group up with people, and start farming and start PvPing. And this is where the game got really fun for me. When I was here, we was at like the Skeleton Castle on like the second day, maybe. We had a group of people farming here, and we had like a guy on the roof with a crossbow who was watching for people to come in, and he was like shooting skeletons from the wall. There was a couple of us in armor with like a two-handed weapon or a shield in melee. And then we had a few people blasting magic, and we were just having fun here. And then when another group would come to the castle, you could either chat to them and share the area, or you could fight them. And the fights here were really fun. But yeah, I had a lot of fun PvPing and leveling in this starter island. Once I got the hang of my build, and once I hit 15-15 and kind of had an idea and tailored the build to what I wanted it to be, it was really fun. Before that, it was a bit of a grind. But then once you hit 15-15 and you have enough gold saved, you can leave the tutorial island. You can go in the portal and go to the real world. So let's talk about that. This is an enormous open world, probably too big. And you have quests everywhere. Every single person I spoke to in the town I arrived at had a quest. And there's also one very important quest here, the vocation trainer. So this vocation trainer will teach you where the different vocations are and how you can get your profession, kind of, so your class. So you kind of, this whole time, you're just a person who uses magic or weapons. And now you can finally learn a vocation. And when you take these vocations, a couple of things happen. So first, you unlock active abilities. So you go days without a single active ability on your bar. But once you get your vocation, you start to have some, and you get to progress this as well. And then it will also lock one of your major levels, depending on what you choose. So there are magical focused vocations, physical focused ones, or hybrids. And if you choose a magical one, your physical level will lock at, say, 15, and then your magic skills will just keep going up. Same with the physical. Your physical levels will keep going up. You can wear bigger and better armor. You can wield stronger and stronger swords, but your magic is very limited. So I headed out and I went to see the gladiators who were stationed at this arena to the north, who said they could teach you how to be a gladiator. And they said they'll teach you how to throw nets, do cool gladiator abilities. And each of these vocations are different. There's a necromancer vocation, a thief, a druid, an archmage. There's all these really cool vocations with their own story in their own area, with their own skills. But here is where the major cracks started to form for me, and why I kind of stopped, and I was like, this is time to make the review now. I'm kind of here. I'm kind of at the point where the cracks start showing. Once I hit this open world and I unlocked the vocations and I unlocked the major cities, I saw what the next 10, 20, 30 hours were going to look like. Every major quest in the town was the same as it was on Beginner Island. Fight 20 boars, bring back 20 deer antlers, gather these herbs or metals. I looked at the quest for the gladiator and their promotions. Promotion 1 was to give them gold. Promotion 2 was to give them copper, wolf teeth. Promotion 3 was to give them boar pelts and fight bears. And as I traveled around, I realized I was fighting the exact same mobs as I was in the new player island. Bears, boars, skeletons, stickmen. It was a copy paste of the tutorial island, but everything was a higher level, which was really disappointing. So that's kind of an example of your first few days in the game and how I experienced it and what you might expect. So let's talk about why you should play Reign of Guilds and perhaps why you shouldn't. So first up, the good stuff, the magic. The magic is fantastic. There are 6 different elements and you can level any of them freely, and each has cool, unique spells that you can mix and match. You can dip into air and water magic and have magical buffs and mana regeneration, and then pump a load of points into fire and throw fireballs and just dunk on people. You can take points in earth and air and get shield abilities, and then magically empower your weapons and play it as a full foot fighter. You can even grab a spell to slow enemies down so you can catch up with them. On top of this, you have the ability to heat a spell, giving you this little minigame bar, and if you hit the sweet spot, you do additional damage. Then for the PvP, it's pretty fun. It's a little unbalanced, but it's really fun. PvP is high risk as you can lose items in your inventory, and experience if you lose in a PvP zone. I believe you lose gear if you have negative karma too, but it's really fun just going at people with a two-handed sword and just seeing them drop, blasting them with fireballs or lightning bolts, cycling buffs and debuffs, and working with your team is really, really fun. As you get to mainland too, regents are worth a lot of gold, so beating someone and getting their spell powder or their pelts or trophies is a massive buzz because you can hand those in for your quests. Another thing they do well is the quality of life. The game has a really good lineup of quality of life features that a lot of other open world sandbox games just don't seem to be able to get right. There's a fast travel system with portals that works really well. It gets you straight back into the action really fast. If you drop in a PvP zone, you can teleport nearby and get back there really fast to get back into the fight. It balances this as well with the, if you want to teleport back, you can't have certain items in your inventory. So if you go out and you get loads of really good like pelts and trophies and items, and you want to take those back, you have to transport them manually, meaning that the portals give you fast travel and really good access to travel around the world, but they don't remove the ability to fight people and take their stuff, because that's when they need to travel, when they have all their stuff on them. So there's a good balance there. There's decent logic to the weapon mechanics too. Having a big axe, you can cleave and hit multiple enemies. Having a shield on, you can't run. There's a decent party system as well with experience share. You can see health bars of your party members. They've got an icon on their head so they stand out. Overall, you can just tell that a lot of thought has gone in to making this a good multiplayer PvP game. It feels good, it's well balanced, and I think they've done a good job here. But it's not all sunshine and roses. There's some problems, and you're watching this, you can see the problems, I'm sure. For all of the good things, this game has some major issues that need to be talked about. First up, the leveling experience. The leveling of abilities is terrible. It's just bad. I don't care what you say, it's bad. It's far too slow to level up and far too easy to exploit. They want you to just sit and shoot spiders or hit skeletons for hours on hours and hours on end to level up, which is just boring. It's just boring. And all the quests, and at least in the tutorial island, gave gold but no skill experience. So you're just forced to spend your entire early game, your first 2 days, just dumping spells into things, just to level up your abilities. The game also forces you to level to 15 combat and 15 magic before leaving the new player island, and you don't get your vocation until you leave. Meaning that your first day or two of playing this game, you might just be leveling magic and throwing lightning at things when you want to be a fighter, or hitting skeletons over the head with an axe when you want to be an archmage. I think they should completely rework this system and bring some sort of vocation onto the new player island, or give some sort of like apprentice vocation. Like maybe if you want to be a melee, you can become a squire and have a melee focus in new player island. Or if you want to be magic, maybe you could be like a student and you get like one active spell or one active combat ability that just lets you have a bit more fun. Next, the big issue is the physical system. So the game has a magical system and a physical system, where magic has a ton of depth, creativity, interesting systems like keying spells, combining magic, buffs. The physical abilities just suck. They're just terrible. One of the worst in any sandbox MMO I've ever played. You can't block, you can't parry. All you really have is a dodge. But you're mostly just swinging blindly. You just swing, step to the side, swing, step back, swing, step back. You can like swing at someone's legs and reduce their stamina, and that's really cool. But then you can't parry, which is just dumb. It's just boring. It needs improving for this game to stand out, especially amongst its competitors. When you've got like Mortal Online 2 that has parries, feints, and is really working hard on making a engaging melee system, this needs to just up its game. And then probably the biggest issue for me is the quests and the diversity of the quests. You will have like 20 quests in your quest log most of the time, and 19 of them will be fetch quests. Fight boars, bring back pelts, get animal teeth. It's all the same mobs. And when you come out the new player island to the mainland, it's a carbon copy. It's just a repeat of all the same stuff. There should be something new and exciting when you get there. Maybe some main quests that sends us off to fight monsters, or some enemy, or some beastmen, or something. Just a little diversity from just grinding the same things. Maybe once you hit level 30 or level 40, there's some really cool, exciting area. Maybe you're fighting a dragon at level 40. But not many players are going to see it. If you spend 2 days trying to get out of the starter island, hoping that, you want to see what the mainland's like, and you get there and it's just the same. You've worked so hard to get out into this big open world, and you're fighting the same thing you fought in your first hour of the game, doing the same quest you were doing in your first hour of the game. It's not quite good enough, really. And then probably the final thing to say on the problems is balance. There is an issue where magic feels overpowered. People can one-shot you in this game with magic, and I don't think it's a pure balance issue. I think it's a scaling issue. I think there's a problem in how they scale their abilities. I've mostly seen it in the magic, but if I'm fighting somebody and I have rank 1 spells and they have rank 2 spells, I lose. There is very, very, very little way to win that fight. So you're seeing people in like the new player island that have got the highest ranking spells, and they've got a magic shield at like rank 3, and they've got rank 3 spells, and they're just walking into a room and one-shotting 3 or 4 players. They just go into like the spider cave and just destroy everyone. Overall, should you play Reign of Guilds? I'm just going to say this. This is an early access, hardcore sandbox MMO. It is not the best sandbox MMO. It is not the best MMO, but it's £30 or like $35 or something. It has no sub, at least right now. It has some really unique and interesting systems, and going around, discovering the world, learning how to play the game, and PvPing, grinding, leveling up has been so fun, but it's not polished and it's not finished and needs a lot more work. If you enjoy the genre, if you play Albion or Mortal Online, or you've played Darkfall, Crowfall, or those kind of sandbox MMOs, this is a really refreshing and fun time with some huge potential. Plus, on release, this game is packed with people. There are people everywhere. You won't go a few minutes without seeing a person in this game. It is really nice to see a really well-populated sandbox MMO. However, if you're the average player and you're just looking for some polished, smooth MMO experience, this isn't it. There is very little direction in the game. It's unbalanced, buggy, and there isn't much quest variety to keep things exciting. It feels like a passion project designed for a niche audience. And if you're in that niche audience, I think you'll have a lot of fun here. I am happy to buy the game. I want to support these developers. I want more games like this to exist, and I want them to do well. And I think if you see yourself in the same if you like the same sort of things and you can relate to that, then give it a try. I think you'll enjoy it. If not, hey, there's plenty more MMOs out there. But that's it. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. Have you tried Reign of Guilds? Can you relate to any of these pros and cons, or was your experience different? Or maybe you're on the fence. Let me know. I'm really curious what you think of this game, because it's a very niche and very unique game that I think there's something special here. It just needs refining. But that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. For more honest and unbiased reviews, subscribe to the channel. But that's it from me. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.